He cheated with my best friend and invited me to their wedding. I showed up as a director and they panicked. I still remember the exact moment my world shattered. It was a Tuesday evening in November. Rain tapping against my apartment windows as I scrolled mindlessly through Instagram. That's when I saw it, a photo of Vanessa, my best friend since college, kissing Trevor, my ex-boyfriend of 4 years. The caption read, "Sometimes the best things happen unexpectedly. New beginnings." My fingers went numb. I dropped my phone like it had burned me. Trevor and I had broken up just 8 months earlier. "I'm just not ready for commitment," he told me, his green eyes avoiding mine as we sat in our favorite coffee shop. "I need to figure out who I am without being in a relationship," he said. I nodded, fighting back tears, telling myself that maybe this was for the best after so many years together. But apparently, he'd figured out who he was pretty damn quickly. He was someone who wanted to be with my best friend. God, I need to back up a little. I'm Mackenzie, Kenzie to everyone who knows me. For 10 years, Vanessa had been my person. We met as freshman roommates at Northwestern, both studying communications with big dreams. We stayed up late drinking cheap wine, sharing secrets, helping each other through breakups and job rejections. She was the sister I never had. When my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer during our junior year, Vanessa drove me home to Michigan every other weekend for 6 months. Trevor, I met him at my first job after college. Both of us working at the same advertising agency in Chicago. He was charming, ambitious, with this infectious laugh that made everyone around him smile. We clicked immediately. For 4 years, we built what I thought was a beautiful life together. We talked about marriage, even looked at rings. I introduced him to my family, brought him to holidays, integrated him into every part of my world, including introducing him to Vanessa. I called her immediately after seeing that Instagram post, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. "Were you ever going to tell me?" I asked when she answered. My voice was barely a whisper. There was a long pause. "Kenzie, I was going to call you this weekend," she said. "It just happened." "Things like this don't just happen," I said. She was surprised at how calm I sounded when I felt like I was being torn apart inside. "How long?" I asked. Another pause. 3 months, she said. 3 months they'd been sneaking around behind my back. While Vanessa was texting me about her work problems and sending me memes, while I was still crying myself to sleep some nights over losing Trevor. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I never meant to hurt you. It's just we connected." "Stop," I cut her off. "I can't do this right now." I hung up and sat in complete silence, staring at the wall for what felt like hours. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I opened a bottle of wine and went through all their social media, torturing myself with the evidence. There were dozens of photos of them together going back months, comments with inside jokes, heart emojis. I could chart the progression of their relationship through these digital breadcrumbs. The next few weeks were a blur of pain, anger, and betrayal. I took time off work, ignored calls from mutual friends, and basically hibernated in my apartment. I blocked both of them on social media, not out of pettiness, but self-preservation. I couldn't bear to see their happiness built on the ruins of my trust. I cycled through every emotion possible. Some days I was furious, throwing things and screaming into pillows. Other days the sadness was so overwhelming I could barely get out of bed. The worst part wasn't even losing Trevor. It was losing Vanessa, my best friend, the person I trusted most in the world. About a month into my hibernation, my older brother Jake showed up at my door unannounced. "You look like hell," he said, pushing past me into my apartment. He grimaced at the state of the place, takeout containers piled up, unwashed clothes everywhere. "Thanks for the update," I muttered, closing the door behind him. Jake opened my curtains, letting harsh winter sunlight flood the room. "This ends today," he announced. "You've given them enough of your time and energy." I collapsed onto my couch. "Easy for you to say. You didn't lose your boyfriend and best friend in one go." He sat beside me, his expression softening. "No, but I watched my little sister get her heart ripped out twice, and now I'm watching her waste away over people who clearly don't deserve her." Something about his words, maybe the raw concern in his voice, finally broke through the fog I'd been living in. That night, after Jake left, I took a long shower, put on clean clothes, and really looked at myself in the mirror for the first time in weeks. My eyes were hollow, skin pale, hair a mess. I barely recognized myself. Enough, I whispered to my reflection. This isn't me. That moment, standing in my bathroom at 11:37 p.m. on a Thursday night, was when something shifted inside me. The pain didn't magically disappear, but suddenly there was something else alongside it: determination. I was done letting their betrayal define me. If this was my rock bottom, there was nowhere to go but up. Little did I know that 6 months later, I'd receive a cream-colored envelope in the mail with a gold, embossed invitation. Vanessa and Trevor were getting married, and somehow, incredibly, they wanted me there to witness it. I stared at the wedding invitation for a long time, running my fingers over the raised lettering. The audacity was breathtaking. Were they serious? After everything that had happened, did they actually expect me to attend their wedding and smile while they exchanged vows? My first instinct was to rip it to shreds, but something stopped me. There was a handwritten note from Vanessa tucked inside. Kenzie, I know this is probably the last thing you want to receive. We've hurt you deeply, and I live with that guilt every day. But you were my best friend for a decade, and it doesn't feel right to take this step without at least extending the invitation. I miss you. If you can find it in your heart to be there, it would mean the world to me. If not, I understand. With love always, V. I laughed out loud, a sharp, bitter sound that surprised even me. With love always, I said to my empty kitchen. You've got to be kidding me. The next day, I met my friend Olivia for coffee. We'd gotten closer in the month since the Vanessa, Trevor debacle, and she'd become my sounding board. They invited you? Her eyes widened as I showed her the invitation. That's some next-level delusional behavior, I said. I stirred my latte absently. Part of me wonders if it's some weird guilt thing. If I attend, it absolves them somehow. Or maybe they want to parade you around as proof that everyone's fine with their relationship. Olivia suggested the ex-girlfriend's blessing. That thought made my stomach turn. I remembered how the betrayal had unfolded, memories I had tried so hard to push away coming back in vivid flashes. About a week after discovering their relationship, Trevor had finally reached out. He asked to meet, saying he wanted to explain. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a neutral place, a park downtown. It was cold, and I remember how the bitter wind seemed fitting for the conversation we were about to have. I never meant for any of this to happen, he began, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. Vanessa and it started as just talking after you and I broke up. She checked in on me. Spare me the details, I interrupted. What I don't understand is why you needed to break up with me in the first place. If you wanted to be with her, why not just tell me the truth? He had the decency to look ashamed. I didn't know I wanted to be with her when we broke up. That came later, or at least I didn't think I did. I caught the hesitation. What does that mean? Trevor sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my chest ache. We had moments before you and I broke up. Nothing physical, but conversations, looks. I started feeling things I shouldn't have. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. So, there had been something brewing even while we were together. He broke up with me claiming he needed to find himself, and then immediately started dating her. My voice was rising. And you both lied about when it started. We didn't want to hurt you more than necessary, he said, as if that explained everything. I stood up, suddenly unable to sit beside him any longer. That wasn't your decision to make. I deserved the truth. As I walked away, he called after me, Kenzie, please. I still care about you. I didn't turn around. The worst revelation came a month later when our mutual friend Jenna let slip something during a night out. I still can't believe they got together right under your nose, she said. Alcohol making her loose-lipped. Coming to your birthday party together as just friends when they'd already hooked up. I nearly choked on my drink. What are you talking about? Jenna's eyes widened as she realized her mistake. Oh God, I thought you knew. At your birthday dinner back in February, they were already seeing each other. February, 4 months before Trevor and I broke up. The room seemed to spin. My birthday dinner, I remembered how Trevor had been late, claiming he had to finish something at work. Vanessa had arrived separately, saying the same thing. I had teased them about both being workaholics. In reality, they had probably been together before arriving. The thought made me physically ill. When I confronted Vanessa via text with this information, her response was telling. It was a mistake, one time before you broke up. We both felt terrible. My boyfriend and best friend had betrayed me in the worst possible way and then orchestrated our breakup so they could be together with minimal guilt. As the pieces fell into place over the following weeks, other suspicious moments came back to me. Times when Trevor was unreachable, how Vanessa would casually mention seeing him around town, weekend trips Trevor took for work that now seemed questionable. And yet, despite uncovering these painful truths, something unexpected was happening alongside my grief. The more I learned about their deception, the more my devastation began transforming into something else, a steely resolve. I stopped crying myself to sleep. I started focusing on my career with renewed energy. I signed up for a photography class I'd always wanted to take. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones. 3 months after discovering their betrayal, I received a job offer that would change everything, a position with my company's international office in London. It was a significant promotion, one that recognized my talent and hard work. For a brief moment, I hesitated. Taking the job meant leaving Chicago, leaving everything familiar behind. Then I realized that was exactly what I needed. I accepted the offer. When my brother helped me pack up my apartment, he found a framed photo of Vanessa and me from college that I'd missed when purging my place of reminders. "What should I do with this?" he asked. I looked at the photo, 2 young women with bright smiles and arms around each other, unaware of what the future held. For a moment, grief threatened to overwhelm me again. "Toss it," I said finally. "That friendship is dead." Jake nodded and dropped it into a garbage bag without another word. As my departure date approached, I found myself getting stronger each day, more determined to build something new from the ashes of what I'd lost. Now, 6 months into my new life in London, this wedding invitation arrives like a ghost from the past. Staring at it across the coffee shop table, I made my decision. "I'm going to go," I told Olivia. She nearly spit out her coffee. "You're what?" A smile spread across my face, not a happy one, but one of pure determination. "I'm going to that wedding, but not for the reasons they think." The moment I decided to attend the wedding, something changed in me. This wasn't about showing up to cause a scene or seeking some dramatic revenge. No, this would be something much more powerful. I would show them exactly what they had lost. I had 3 months until the wedding, and I was going to use every single day. My life in London was already taking shape nicely. I'd been promoted to creative director for our European markets just 6 months after arriving, the fastest promotion in company history. I had a beautiful apartment in Notting Hill that I was slowly making my own. I'd made friends, was learning to navigate the city like a local, and had even started dating casually. But now I had a new focus: Operation Wedding Revenge. Though revenge doesn't quite capture it. This was about reclaiming my narrative. First, I committed fully to my physical and mental health. I hired a personal trainer and nutritionist, not to lose weight, but to feel strong and vibrant. I started running along the Thames every morning, feeling my endurance and confidence grow with each kilometer. I found a therapist who helped me process the remaining pain and anger, transforming it into fuel rather than poison. "What do you want to feel when you see them?" Dr. Amara asked during one session. I thought about it. "I want to feel nothing, no pain, no anger, just complete indifference." She smiled. "That's actually a very healthy goal." "And how do you want them to feel when they see you?" "I want them to question every decision they've ever made," I said without hesitation. I threw myself into work with renewed passion. I landed 2 major accounts that had been courted by our agency for years. My name started appearing in industry publications. I was invited to speak at a prestigious advertising conference in Berlin, where I delivered a keynote that received a standing ovation. I also focused on building a fulfilling personal life. I took weekend trips to Paris, Barcelona, and Rome. I learned to cook Italian food from a chef who lived in my building. I started a photography Instagram account that quickly gained a following for my street portraits of London life. And yes, I met someone. His name was Elliot, a British architect with kind eyes and a quick wit. We met at a gallery opening in Shoreditch, arguing good-naturedly about an abstract painting neither of us particularly liked. Our relationship developed naturally, without the pressure or intensity of my time with Trevor. Elliot knew about the wedding, about my history. "Are you sure you want to go?" he asked one night as we walked along the South Bank. "I'm sure," I told him. I need to close this chapter completely. What I didn't tell him was that I'd been keeping tabs on Vanessa and Trevor from afar, not in an obsessive way, but occasional check-ins through mutual friends and social media glimpses from accounts they didn't know I could see. What I learned was revealing. Their relationship had the shiny veneer of perfection, elaborate date nights posted on Instagram with gushing captions about finding the one. But underneath, there were cracks. Trevor had been passed over for a promotion he'd been counting on. Vanessa's design business was struggling. They'd moved in together but fought constantly about money. According to our mutual friend Jenna, they're trying way too hard to convince everyone they're happy. It's honestly exhausting to be around them sometimes. I didn't take pleasure in their problems, okay? Maybe a little, but it confirmed what I'd suspected. They'd built their relationship on a foundation of deceit, and those kinds of foundations rarely support lasting happiness. 2 months before the wedding, I received another envelope containing details about the rehearsal dinner and other wedding weekend events. Again, a handwritten note from Vanessa. "Kenzie, I was so happy to hear from your brother that you might attend. The invitation extends to all weekend events, of course. I'd love a chance to talk before the ceremony if you're open to it." I hadn't actually told Jake I was going, but I wasn't surprised he'd heard through the grapevine and mentioned it to Vanessa. Chicago's social circles were small like that. The weekend before flying back to Chicago, Elliot and I were having breakfast at my apartment when he asked, "Would you like me to come with you to the wedding?" I looked up from my coffee, surprised. "You'd do that?" "Of course," he said, reaching across the table to take my hand. Meeting the ex and the former best friend at their wedding sounds like a nightmare. "You shouldn't have to face that alone." I squeezed his hand, genuinely touched. "Thank you. That means more than you know." The truth was, having Elliot by my side would complete the picture perfectly. He was successful, handsome, charming, and most importantly, he made me genuinely happy in a way Trevor never had. Our relationship wasn't built on grand gestures or intense drama, but on mutual respect, support, and genuine compatibility. As the wedding approached, I carefully planned every detail. My outfit, a sophisticated navy blue dress that was elegant without trying to compete with the bridal party. My hair, I'd grown it out and had it styled in London by a celebrity stylist who owed me a favor after my agency handled his product launch. I even coordinated with Elliot so we would look like the power couple we were becoming. I also prepared myself mentally. I practiced responses to uncomfortable questions, rehearsed gracious smiles and brief, pleasant interactions, and visualized seeing them for the first time, keeping my composure completely intact. The night before my flight back to Chicago, I stood on my balcony looking out at the London skyline. A year ago, I was heartbroken, betrayed, my life in shambles. Now I was standing in one of the world's greatest cities with a thriving career, amazing new friends, a promising relationship, and a sense of self, worth stronger than anything I'd ever felt before. I realized then that my revenge wasn't about the wedding at all. My revenge was living well. My revenge was becoming the woman I was always meant to be, the woman who was too big, too bright, too ambitious for the small lives Trevor and Vanessa had settled for. As I packed my suitcase that night, I placed a small gift inside, a crystal picture frame from Harrods. Inside was a handwritten card, "Congratulations on your special day. May you both find the happiness you deserve." The message was simple, elegant, gracious, but we would all know what it really meant. My phone buzzed with a text from Elliot, all packed. "Can't wait for this adventure with you. They won't know what hit them." I smiled, feeling absolutely ready. The best revenge wouldn't be served cold. It would be served with a radiant smile and the quiet confidence of someone who had not just survived but thrived. The flight to Chicago felt like traveling back in time. As the plane descended and the familiar skyline came into view, I had a moment of panic. What was I doing? Was I really ready to face them? Elliot squeezed my hand. "You've got this," he whispered. "Remember who you are now." We checked into the Drake Hotel downtown rather than staying with family or friends. I wanted neutral territory, a luxurious home base where I could retreat if things became overwhelming. Plus, I'd booked the Lakeview suite, a small extravagance that felt appropriate for the occasion. The wedding was still 2 days away, with the rehearsal dinner tomorrow night. I decided to skip the pre-wedding events like the bridesmaids' lunch and spa day despite Vanessa's blanket invitation. There were limits to what I could handle, and watching her prepare for marrying my ex was beyond those limits. That evening, my brother Jake came to meet Elliot over drinks at the hotel bar. "Holy transformation, sis," were Jake's first words as he hugged me. "London looks good on you." It felt good to laugh with my brother, to introduce him to Elliot, and watch them bond over their shared love of architecture and craft beer. For a few hours, I almost forgot why we were in Chicago. Then my phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Heard you're in town. Can we grab coffee tomorrow?" Just us. I showed the message to Jake, who raised his eyebrows. "You going to do it?" I considered for a moment, then typed back, "Sure." The lobby cafe at the Drake, 11 a.m. Her response was immediate. "I'll be there." The next morning, I took extra care getting ready. I wore a casual but obviously expensive outfit, white wide, leg trousers and a silk blouse, accessorized with the Cartier watch I'd bought myself after landing the Bergman account. My hair fell in loose waves, my makeup natural but flawless. "Want me to lurk nearby?" Elliot offered, only half joking. I kissed him. "I've got this, but maybe have the bourbon ready when I get back." I was already seated with a cappuccino when Vanessa arrived. The moment I saw her walk in, I was struck by how different she looked. She'd lost weight, too much, really, and there was a tightness around her eyes that spoke of stress. "Kenzie," she said, her voice catching slightly. "You look incredible." I stood to give her a brief hug, no warmth, just social courtesy. "Thank you. Congratulations on tomorrow." We sat, an awkward silence falling between us. 10 years of friendship, and suddenly we were like strangers. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she finally said. "I wasn't either for a long time," I admitted. "But I'm in a different place now." She nodded, studying me. "London seems to be treating you well. Everyone's talking about your success." I smiled. "It's been transformative, the best decision I ever made." The unspoken hung between us, a decision I made because of your betrayal. Vanessa looked down at her hands. "I know nothing I say can undo what happened, but I want you to know I think about it every day. About how we hurt you." "I appreciate that," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "But honestly, Vanessa, I didn't come back for apologies or to rehash the past. That chapter's closed for me." Her eyes widened slightly, clearly surprised by my composure. Perhaps she'd expected tears or anger, anything but this calm acceptance. "So why did you come?" she asked. I considered my answer carefully. "To prove something to myself, I suppose, that I could face this with grace, that it no longer has power over me." We talked for another 20 minutes, superficial conversation about mutual friends, her design business, my work in London. I kept the boundaries firm, redirecting whenever she tried to delve into emotionally charged territory. As we prepared to leave, she hesitated. "Trevor doesn't know I'm meeting you. He's nervous about seeing you tomorrow." I allowed myself a small, enigmatic smile. "He needn't be. Tomorrow isn't about the past. It's about celebrating your future." The words sounded sincere, but we both knew better. Later, as Elliot and I dressed for the rehearsal dinner, I recounted the meeting. She seemed tired, I concluded. Stressed, not at all like a blissful bride-to-be. Cold feet, perhaps. "Cold feet," Elliot suggested, adjusting his tie. Or maybe reality is finally setting in. The rehearsal dinner was at Gibson Steakhouse, Trevor's favorite restaurant where he'd taken me for our anniversaries. Another sign of his lack of consideration, or perhaps Vanessa's insecurity, choosing a place so connected to our past. We arrived fashionably late, making our entrance when the party was already in full swing. The conversations nearest the door faltered as we walked in. I felt eyes tracking us as Elliot guided me through the room, his hand supportively at the small of my back. Trevor saw me from across the room where he was talking with his parents. The color drained from his face. I gave him a small, polite wave and turned my attention to greeting other guests I recognized. Throughout the evening, I was the picture of grace, laughing, chatting, introducing Elliot to everyone with genuine warmth. I made no effort to approach Trevor but didn't avoid him either. When we eventually found ourselves face to face at the bar, I smiled as if greeting a casual acquaintance. "Kenzie," he said, his voice strained. "You came." "I did." "Congratulations, Trevor." "Thank you." His eyes darted to Elliot, who was deep in conversation with one of Trevor's cousins. "You look different, in a good way," I laughed lightly. "That's what happens when you rebuild your life. Everything changes, mostly for the better." He was staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite place: regret, longing. "I've been following your career," he admitted. "That Bergman campaign was brilliant." "Thank you. How are things at Weston and Hayes?" I asked, knowing from industry gossip that the agency where he still worked was struggling. He shifted uncomfortably. "Challenging market right now." I nodded sympathetically. "I heard." "Such a shame." Before he could respond, Elliot appeared at my side, sliding an arm around my waist. "Sorry to interrupt, love, but I've just had the most fascinating conversation about Chicago architecture with your friend Michael." I performed the introductions, watching Trevor's face as he shook hands with Elliot. The contrast between them was stark. Trevor looked tired, slightly heavier than I remembered, his designer suit not quite hiding the stress of recent months. Elliot, meanwhile, exuded confidence and genuine happiness. His British accent and effortless charm drew attention from everyone nearby. As the evening progressed, I noticed Trevor watching me repeatedly. Once I caught Vanessa observing this with a tight expression. The tension between them became increasingly apparent. Small disagreements over wedding details, strained smiles, separate conversations. We left before the dinner ended, declining offers to join the younger crowd for after-dinner drinks. "Best to leave them wanting more," Elliot said as our Uber pulled away. Back at the hotel, I kicked off my heels and collapsed onto the bed. That was intense, but not in the way I expected. Elliot loosened his tie. "How so?" I asked. "I thought I'd feel, I don't know, vindicated, triumphant. Instead, I just feel sad for them. They don't seem happy." "That's because you've moved on," Elliot said, sitting beside me. "They're still stuck in the drama they created." The wedding day dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for the outdoor ceremony at the Chicago Botanic Garden. As I dressed, I felt strangely calm. The navy dress fit perfectly, my hair and makeup were flawless, and Elliot looked handsome in his tailored suit, ready for the grand finale. He asked, offering his arm. I took a deep breath. "Absolutely." The ceremony was beautiful. I had to admit, white flowers everywhere, a string quartet playing softly, the garden in full summer bloom. We took seats toward the back, nodding politely to those who recognized me. When Trevor appeared at the altar, I studied him objectively. He looked handsome but visibly nervous, shifting his weight repeatedly as he waited. When Vanessa appeared, there was an audible murmur of appreciation from the crowd. Her dress was stunning, a designer gown that must have cost a fortune. As they exchanged vows, I felt a final release. The last threads of attachment, of pain, of what might have been, all dissolved as I watched them promise forever to each other. I squeezed Elliot's hand, genuinely at peace. The reception revealed the cracks more clearly. Trevor drank too much, too quickly. Vanessa seemed to be performing for the crowd rather than enjoying her day. They barely spoke to each other except when posing for photos. When it came time to offer congratulations in the receiving line, I approached them with genuine composure. I handed Vanessa the gift from Harrods. "I wish you both happiness," I said simply. Trevor couldn't meet my eyes. Vanessa hugged me stiffly. "Thank you for coming, Kenzie. It means a lot." As Elliot and I circulated through the reception, I overheard snippets of conversation, concerns about the couple's compatibility, observations about their apparent tension, speculation about how long the marriage would last. When Trevor's best man made a toast referencing how quickly Trevor had moved on to bigger and better things after our breakup, an uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Several people glanced in my direction, but I simply sipped my champagne, unbothered. The final moment came during the dancing. Elliot and I were showing off the waltz steps we'd learned in London when I noticed Trevor watching us from the bar. When the song ended, Elliot whispered, "Your ex hasn't taken his eyes off you all night. I'm going to get us drinks." Give him his chance to say whatever he needs to say. Sure enough, as soon as Elliot walked away, Trevor approached. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Just for a minute." I nodded, following him to a quiet corner of the terrace. "Are you happy?" he asked bluntly. "In London with him?" The question surprised me. "Yes," I said simply. "Happier than I've ever been." Trevor looked out at the garden, the fairy lights reflecting in his eyes. "I think I made a mistake, Kenzie," he said. And there it was, the moment I'd once dreamed of. Trevor regretting his choice, wanting me back. But instead of satisfaction, I felt only pity. "The mistake wasn't leaving me," I said gently. "It was how you did it, the lies, the betrayal. But honestly, it led me to where I'm supposed to be." He turned to me, his expression pained. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if—" "No," I interrupted. "And on your wedding day, you shouldn't either." I touched his arm briefly. "Goodbye, Trevor. I mean it this time." As I walked away, I felt completely, utterly free. Elliot and I left Chicago the next morning, upgrading to first class for the flight back to London. As we settled into our seats, champagne in hand, he asked, "Was it what you expected?" I considered the question. No, it was better. But not in the way I imagined. I thought I'd feel vindicated seeing them unhappy. Instead, I just felt free. The trip back to Chicago had given me something I hadn't realized I needed: complete closure. Seeing Trevor and Vanessa, witnessing the cracks in their relationship firsthand, and walking away without a hint of regret or longing had healed something deep within me. 2 weeks after returning to London, I received an email from Vanessa. They were opening the wedding gifts, and she wanted to thank me for the crystal frame. She attached a photo. They'd placed it on their mantel, empty. "We haven't found the perfect photo for it yet," she wrote. "The wedding pictures aren't back." I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Life in London continued to flourish. My agency expanded, opening a new office in Berlin that I would oversee along with London. Elliot and I moved in together, finding a beautiful townhouse in Chelsea with enough space for his architectural drafting table and my growing art collection. 3 months after the wedding, Jenna called with news. "They're in counseling already," she reported. "Apparently, Trevor mentioned your name one too many times during an argument." I wasn't surprised, but I also didn't feel the satisfaction I might have once expected. "I hope they work things out," I said, meaning it. Their happiness or unhappiness no longer affected me either way. 6 months after the wedding, I was featured in Adweek's 40 Under 40 list. The photo shoot took place in my London office, with the Thames visible through the floor, to ceiling windows behind me. In the interview, I spoke about taking risks, embracing change, and the international perspective that had transformed my creative approach. The interviewer asked about my rapid rise after moving to London. "Was there a catalyst for your move abroad?" I smiled. Sometimes the best gifts come disguised as heartbreak. What seemed like an ending was actually the beginning of everything important. Almost exactly 1 year after their wedding, I heard the news through our dwindling circle of mutual friends. Trevor and Vanessa were divorcing. The official story was irreconcilable differences, but the unofficial version included Trevor's continued drinking problems and Vanessa's resentment over sacrificing career opportunities to support his. When Olivia texted me the news, my first reaction wasn't glee or vindication. It was a quiet acknowledgement that some relationships are built on shaky foundations that eventually crumble under their own weight. That evening, Elliot and I were having dinner at our favorite restaurant in Notting Hill when he surprised me by sliding a small velvet box across the table. "This isn't a proposal," he said quickly, seeing my expression. "Not yet, but it is a promise." Inside was a delicate gold key on a chain, a key to the cottage in the Cotswolds, the one we'd fallen in love with last month. I bought it for us, for weekends, holidays, for our future. Tears filled my eyes, happy ones, the kind I'd forgotten existed during those dark months after the betrayal. "It's perfect," I whispered. Later that night, as we walked home along lamp-lit streets, I thought about the strange path that had led me here. If Trevor and Vanessa hadn't betrayed me, I'd likely still be in Chicago in a relationship that was comfortable but not quite right, friends with someone who didn't truly have my best interests at heart. Their wedding day, the day I'd once dreaded, then planned to use for revenge, had instead become the day I fully embraced my new life. My presence there wasn't the petty triumph I'd initially imagined, but something far more powerful, evidence of complete healing and transformation. 2 years to the day after discovering their betrayal, I stood in our Cotswold cottage, watching Elliot build a fire as autumn rain tapped against the windows. My phone buzzed with a LinkedIn notification. Trevor had viewed my profile. I smiled and put the phone away without responding. Some people remain stuck in the past, constantly looking back at what they lost or threw away. Others move forward, building something beautiful from the ashes of what was destroyed. The true revenge wasn't showing up at their wedding looking successful and happy, nor was it watching their marriage crumble while mine flourished. The true revenge was realizing I didn't need revenge at all. I had something much better, a life redesigned entirely on my own terms, filled with purpose, love, and genuine joy. A life that would have been impossible had they not shown me their true colors. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served at all. It's lived day by day in a life so full and rich that the past becomes nothing more than a distant memory, a painful chapter that ultimately led to a far better story.